What's going on, everyone? For those that just came in, you'll see the timer's already going, so you're doing your review words as per usual. So you can get going with that. I'm just about halfway through here. Less than a minute left. Okay, class, let's come back together here. Let's kind of do what we usually do. Let's just start with the Embargo Act. This was a Unit 2 Thomas Jefferson thing we learned about, but embargoes come often in American history. So does anyone want to share what they think an embargo is? Okay, so Britain and France were in a war. There's a lot of Napoleonic wars that you'll learn about when you get to 10th grade. We decided to not trade with them, so we had an embargo on them. An embargo is a ban on trade. We've had embargoes throughout American history. Another more famous one was the embargo we had on Japan prior to Pearl Harbor. Oftentimes, countries that are in war, we don't really want to trade with, because if you owe them something or are working with them, that could sometimes bring you into a war. Ironically, the embargo with Japan before World War II still kind of got us into a war because they were unhappy about that. So just goes to show you, sometimes you can't plan for everything. Next word is nativism. If you are a nativist, you are someone who has basically dislike of immigrants. All right, you are preferable to immigrants coming into the country. You're not preferable to immigrants coming into the country. You prefer people who were born here. And this was very big through 2 times in American history, the late 1800s and the 1920s. Those 2 times led to a rise of nativism. One was because of communism. One was because of just so many immigrants coming in the late 1800s. One of the most famous nativist laws was the Chinese Exclusion Act. You also have the Quota Act, the Gentleman's Agreement, the National Origins Act. These are all laws that would, be nativist in nature. All right. And the next one is yellow journalism, a big thing we talked about in Unit 4. Okay, journalists who are biased or say maybe not false statements, but definitely not the full truth. They give a certain version, exaggerate certain things so they can build support for what they want. Good. What war does yellow journalism lead us to declaring war? Okay, good. The Spanish-American War. Without yellow journalism, without the media kind of portraying the Spanish were responsible for the sinking of the USS Maine, we don't go to war with Spain. All right, now, the war was fine. We do very well in that war, but we still went to war kind of under a false reason, thinking the Spanish blew up the USS Maine, which we now know was an accident, unfortunately. All right, so exaggerating news on an event to try and sway public opinion. The basic example would be the USS Maine leading to the Spanish-American War. This was done during the imperialism age. Just a side note, please remember, when we win the Spanish-American War, this is like the telling to the world that we are now one of the strongest countries. We're a world's power because we just beat one of the best countries in like 4 months and had less than 1,000 soldiers die. All right, so the world was kind of put on notice after this, all right, in terms of our military and economic strength. All right, word number 4 was appeasement. Okay, this was a war we didn't spend a ton of time on in World War II, but it's kind of the reason that World War II kind of started. Okay, giving into an aggression by a country to avoid conflict. Yep. Trying to keep peace with an aggressive country, kind of like looking the other way with some of the negative things we're doing. Teachers do that all the time. Okay, students are misbehaving in class. Sometimes you can't correct every behavior, so you have to kind of let things go. That is known as appeasement. All right, and the biggest example of this was in World War II. This is a world history thing, but it affects America because America does get involved. Britain and France basically let Germany start taking over lands around them, and they were appeasing them because they are really doing an act of war. They shouldn't be doing that. You don't have to write all of that down, but if you remember, there's a small area of Czechoslovakia. We let them get that, and then they invade the rest of Czechoslovakia, and then we say you can't invade any more countries, and then they invade Poland, and that's how World War II starts, okay, prior to the United States getting involved. All right. Let's see here. Word number 5 was the Great Society, something we just learned about a month ago, and so it should be pretty fresh in our minds. A series of laws and programs to help the poor under Lyndon Johnson, correct. Very similar to the New Deal, also correct. And it helped out. It was basically trying to help out, people who are poor and struggling. There's 2 major programs you should know about for the regions from the Great Society. The first is Medicare, Medicaid. Okay, the second is the housing program, HUD. Okay, but it expands the entitlement program. We know taxes go up a little from this, the debt we owe, but the government provides more. Okay, it gives health insurance to the elderly, it gives health insurance to the poor if they're needed. This way, everyone's kind of covered. All right, and definitely the hardest word we say for the last one, the Virginia and Kentucky resolution. This is all the way back in 1798, early Unit 2. We did this. Has to do with John Adams, so let's see if you guys remember. Okay, good. They notified the Alien Sedition Acts. Those were laws created by John Adams that were very unpopular by the federal government. But the federal government did pass them. Congress did approve it. So that means that everyone, because of the Supremacy Clause, should be able to follow it. But they don't. Virginia and Kentucky nullify the laws, and they don't follow it. And yes, Gentian, a good point, too. It led to the McCullough versus Maryland Supreme Court case, which basically says the federal government has to, if they pass a law, the state governments have to follow the federal government laws. Okay, so you can't have states really canceling laws anymore. And this was one of the only examples where this happened in American history. All right, so not the easiest one, but definitely one we have to be kind of responsible for. Okay, so I'll give you 10 seconds if you just want to screenshot that or take a picture or whatever, and we will go into a couple of different things. All right, so I want to now bring your attention to this here. I don't want you to panic. I don't want you to freak. Actually, to be honest, you'll notice, I think, I'm going to take away the due date now. Okay? I don't need you to do this. Okay? I trust you now all to study any way you want to study. I just provided all of the resources in case you've been liking going back in the process of this. The last one you should do is Final Review 5, but because we're a little short on time, there's also Final Review 6 and 7. So you don't have to do these. It's completely up to you. I just wanted to make sure you had all the resources there for you to kind of, go back and study. If you haven't been loving these and you'd rather study in a different way, by all means, you could do that. Okay, you should have the Ultimate Regents Review post. Okay, so if I scroll down a little bit, okay, this post here, if you want to study through that, if you have your own way of studying, by all means, you can, study anyone you want. I'm not gonna, pigeonhole you to study this, a certain way tonight. It's all completely up to you. All right. There is a form here that was, I think, posted by accident. That is the, what's it called? That's the DBQ or thematic essay, which you guys already voted on. Okay. So a couple things. Sure, I can explain the New Deal again. Yeah, no problem. So when the Great Depression hits, the government pretty much is not doing much to help out its people. So the New Deal was basically a promise by the new president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, coming in. And they were basically a mixture of laws and government programs. Okay, some were just laws passed, like the Wagner Act, and some were programs like the FDIC or the Public Works Administration, the PWA. Okay, these were put into place to try and help America recover from the Great Depression. All right. What makes it so tricky is there are so many programs you're responsible for knowing. There's like 8 of them. And in fact, on the final tomorrow, I know 2 of them are definitely going to be on it. So it's definitely important to go back to kind of know what the New Deal was, but also see what these programs were designed to do. But all of them were helping the United States economy recover. The way you help an economy recover, you're going to try and create more jobs for people. Okay, you're going to try and help out the industries like the banking industry and the stock market that were really struggling and help them recover. So the New Deal were basically government programs and laws designed to help the country get out of the Great Depression. Okay, sure, no problem. Yeah, Sunday, 11:59 p.m. And to be honest, I'm not going to check until Monday morning. So if you want to stay up until 3, 4 a.m., please, you can. Here's my biggest piece of advice. You're graduating Monday. So I would love nothing more for you to enjoy your Sunday and then enjoy your graduation. So if you can kind of grind through Friday and maybe Saturday and just get it done, that's fine. But I'm not going to check it until Monday morning. Okay. I don't care if you don't do the multiple choice last. You don't have to have it done. I know usually once we're having a normal test with an essay, I want you to do the multiple choice on Friday, like the midterm. It doesn't matter to me, okay? As long as it gets done, you do it at your own pace. It's a take-home final, so I don't really care if you do it all Saturday, all Friday, all Sunday. It's up to you. So I would hope, so it's a good question, Abigail. We're going to have meetings, okay, remote meets, and we'll kind of see, like, what's going on those days. We may just watch a movie. We may have a little bit of free time. We may, do something. We're not going to do lessons or anything, but we may do something social studies related. But I kind of want to see who shows up. So I do expect people to be there and maybe say goodbye or whatever, but we're not doing any more work if that's what you're asking. Your last official day is the 25th as far as I know. So that means you should have 4 remote classes after your graduation. All right, so we'll kind of get together for that there. All right, so a couple final tips here. Okay, you have graduation Monday, so I think you can take that day off, right? Your time you're coming, I can't remember. It's somewhere in the middle of the day, late afternoon, 12 to 1. Okay, I'm serious about this, guys, and I hate to say this. Okay, it's going to sound very bad teacher of me, all right? If you have not turned on your camera all year, or you have not been in person at all, I'm sorry to say, you need to introduce yourself when you come see us. All of your teachers. Like, I know Maheen by the way her emoji profile picture is. If she came wearing that shirt, I would know exactly what she looks like. Okay? So I know it's going to sound a little weird to maybe be introducing yourself by the time you're graduating. It's like bizarre to even say. But please, don't just say, hey, Mr. Panio, great to see you. And I'm not going to know who you are most likely. I know faces because you guys have been through the building, but to match up, okay, who you are is tough. People like Gentiana or Abigail or Winderly or, even Betty, who was, came a little bit for in person. I remember who you guys are, but if you've never been in person, don't assume I remember who you were from 7th grade. So just please make sure you introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. That would really help me a lot because I feel like I know you all very well, but by face I don't. So that's just the truth of the matter. All right, and if you come in Monday for your graduation stuff, definitely come say hi. I definitely want to shake your hand and congratulate you, for getting through the Regents program for me. You guys always have a little bit of a specialer place in my heart than most of my general students because you guys take that tough leap of doing this 11th grade class. So I definitely want to, credit you all for that. All right, in terms of a couple final things before we go over some final review. The multiple choice, remember this, works chronologically. Okay, so this is just a tip. When you're doing question 4, that should be something from Unit 1. So if there's a question and one of the answers has to do with the Cold War and you're on question 4, you can eliminate that answer. All right, it should work chronologically from what you've learned. Okay, likewise, when you get to question 43, you shouldn't be answering something related to the American Revolution. Okay, this should help you in terms of just kind of looking back and, giving some process and elimination sometimes. So I wanted you to keep that in mind when you get to the multiple choice. The DBQ essay is going to be on one of these 3 topics. Okay, I'm not going to tell you. Okay, it's either going to be on major wars, so study up on your major wars. I'm writing this down for you. All right, so know your World War II, know your Civil War, know the causes. All right, it's going to be either Supreme Court cases. Okay, so study up on your Supreme Court cases. You also have the graphic organizer. That should be very helpful for you. All right, or we're going to do reform movements. Okay, so know your civil rights movement, know your women's rights movement, know the abolitionist movement and the Granger movement. Those will be some good things to say here. So your DBQ essay will be on one of those 3 topics. If you want to do a little further emphasis on studying those, okay, that would be very helpful. Okay, you're going to get 3 topics. So let's say we do reform movements. They're going to say, they're going to show you the civil rights movement, abolitionist movement, and then they'll say the Granger movement. Okay, and you're going to have to pick 2 of those 3. So start becoming familiar with, some of those big topics there. All right, so that's my multiple choice tip. That's my DBQ tip. Besides that, I'm not really going to give you too much. You're going to be home, so you can use all your resources, your notes, with the exception of Google. Okay, I'd appreciate it if you just stick to the stuff we did in class. It would be a lot more helpful for you. All right. I also mentioned I shared final review 5, 6, 7. Again, you don't have to do any of these if you don't want to. Okay, you should just be studying any way you want tonight. Okay, finishing up there. I think it'd be great to have it all done by Friday so you could just enjoy your weekend. But obviously, no one's forced to do that. It's going to be due Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. All right? So that is all I have in terms of tomorrow. Let's just do some final review stuff. If you guys can open final review 4, I'll give you a minute to get there. And we'll do some final things. The good thing is final review 4 gets us through unit 4. And the good thing is unit 5, 6, and 7 we've done in the last few months. So you should have a little bit of a fresher reminder of these things. All right? So I'll speed through it. If I'm going too fast, you need me to stop, go over something a little further, please let me know. So in this class, you don't need to know the difference between a monopoly and or a trust. So you should just know that it's a person or a business that owns the entire product and sells it for whatever price they want. Okay, they're the only one who makes it around the country. Okay, what are unions? Unions are basically groups of workers that try and come up and make sure they're treated fairly in terms of pay or working conditions, and they want to be treated fairly as workers. The American Federation of Labor was the biggest labor union in the United States in the 1800s and 1900s. There was a large portion of the population a part of it. Okay, the AFL, the first long-lasting successful labor union in the United States, mainly because it what? The correct answer... correct answer is 4 for the rights of skilled workers. Skilled workers meaning people who work with their hands. What major trends related to population occurred during the industrialization era? So the more industrialization, the more people move to cities, so therefore 2 is the correct answer because industry is mostly in cities. Why were railroads important during the age of industrialization? It was able to trade the products a lot faster across the country. Okay, you could say travel too, but trade was the most important thing. One factor that furthered industrialization, the correct answer is going to be 3. More railroads around meant you can get products shipped around faster. Cornelius Vanderbilt, he was the railroad monopoly owner. So he worked in the railroad industry and owned a monopoly in that. Rockefeller, he was the oil monopoly owner. Okay, so he owned all of the oil for a short time in our country. Carnegie, he owned steel monopoly owner. JP Morgan, he was the financial institution banking monopoly owner. All right, and they're sometimes known robber barons. Remember, they looked at it as good ways sometimes or bad ways. The way they're looked at as bad ways is these bosses use very ruthless business practices, so 3 is the correct answer. If you were not with them, they made you pay for it. All right? Trust busting was the act of breaking up monopolies by getting more government intervention. There's 2 very famous trust busters. Theodore Roosevelt was one, William Taft was the other, so the correct answer for this one is going to be 3. Okay, you don't need to know the difference between the Sherman and Antitrust Act. They were basically 2 laws designed to break up monopolies by promoting fair competition. All right, and basically making sure. All right, so during the 1800s, business leaders formed trusts mainly to eliminate competition. Okay, you don't want other people selling the same product as you because now you have to make the best product for the lowest possible price. If you're the only one that sells it, if I'm the only one that sells pencils, I can make the price of pencils $20, okay, and there's no competition against it. Both of these laws here, the correct answer, the top one is number 1. The term business monopoly, the correct answer for this one is 4. All right, then it moves to immigration. We're not going to do nativism again, we just did it today. The Chinese Exclusion Act didn't allow Chinese labor immigrants to come to the country for a span of 10 years and then eventually 20 years. Xenophobia is when you are basically afraid of immigrants, don't like immigrants, very similar to nativism. But when you're xenophobic, you are more actively trying to prevent them from, coming into the country, immigrants from coming into the country. Main purpose of these two laws is the correct answer, number one. The bottom question during the late 1800s, which groups strongly supported open immigration? So the people who loved immigrants were business owners, factory owners, people who were hiring the immigrants. So generally those are factory owners. 3 is the best answer. All right, social Darwinism. Okay, did you guys end up learning this in science this year? I can't remember. Okay, so you should know it's survival of the fittest. In terms of social studies, this led the government to believe that, since we're being laissez-faire, staying out of the economy, we should, we should allow business owners, the best ones to succeed and don't worry about, the weaker businesses, so to speak. The theory of social Darwinism, the correct answer for that one is 3. Social Darwinism promoted, the correct answer is, it's the second 2, so it should be 3. The stronger businesses would succeed at the expense of weaker businesses. All right. Then it starts circling back to the Monroe Doctrine because they're going to go to imperialism now. Monroe Doctrine we already talked about. Not going to spend any more time on it. We did it in last class. The correct answer for that one is going to be 2. All right. Open door policy and imperialism. Imperialism is when the United States tries to spread its outreach to other countries not located in the United States mainland. They go to other countries, they take it over, usually for resources or for a military base or reasons like that. They did xenophobia, so we don't need to do that again. The open door policy is when the United States went to China and convinced it to open up trade and basically got the countries that were controlling it out so we can trade openly with them. Why did America need new markets, new places to trade? Because America only has so much. And if you're located in more countries around the world, you can get more products, and that's very helpful to us. The correct answer for this first one is 1. The correct answer for the second one is going to be, let's see. Correct answer is 3. That one was a little tough. All right. The correct answer for this one is also 3. That one's a little more straightforward. All right, we kind of did all of this already with the yellow journalism, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. The correct answer for this one here is going to be 2. The correct answer for this one, explaining yellow journalism, kind of biased, kind of trying to invoke a reaction from people. The correct answer for this one is going to be 2. Okay, main split by secret infernal machine, right? Trying to, get you to think a certain way that, it was attacked. Which 1890 headline is the best example of yellow journalism? The correct answer for this one's 4. Spanish authorities butcher innocent Cubans. Okay, there's a narrative there, and they're very exaggerating, kind of what happens. All right, the Roosevelt Corollary was added to the Monroe Doctrine. This was just a little bit further in our foreign policy. Now basically saying they want all European countries out. It gives us police power of the Western Hemisphere. All right, and then the correct answer for that one is 2. All right, so base your answer on the following. The United States government justified most of the actions shown by the map. The correct answer for that one's 1. Okay, what is the Grange movement or the Granger movement? This is a movement to get more rights for farmers, to get a focus on the coinage of silver. Okay, populism is basically the people from the Granger movement wanted to become more of a outspoken group. And these were just some of the farmers, working together. So Populist Party and the Granger movement, populism, all related together. Which political party does Teddy Roosevelt represent? Well, at first the Republicans, and then he becomes a part of the Progressive or Bull Moose Party. The square deal, we didn't go over too much in class. It's not on the Regents, but he talked about just getting a fair deal for all Americans. When you get a square deal, everyone gets, an equal opportunity to succeed. What did Roosevelt think of big businesses? He didn't like them. He wanted to break up their trusts. All right. The correct answer for this one here is 2. Prior to this, a lot of the presidents focused on laissez-faire. Roosevelt wasn't. He wanted to try and come out with a little bit more, government regulation. Correct answer for this question, number 2, progressive movement supported the idea the federal government should. The correct answer here is 1, regulate or control big business. The major purpose of the Granger movement in the early 1870s, the correct answer is going to be 1, okay, eliminate the abuses of the railroad. That's a little tough. You have to remember that the railroad kind of went through where the farm was, and that kind of really hurt them. All right, so that's a little bit of a tough question. And Granger movement has to do with farmers, so choose the correct answer for that bottom one. All right, number 9. Another correct answer here, okay, Roosevelt, Wilson, La Follette. I'm not sure if we learned about La Follette's, okay. They all try to limit the power of big business, so 2 is the correct answer. Progressive movement in American society, that's going to lead to number 1, increased government regulation of business. Muckrakers are people who tried to expose government corruption. All right, they were people who, ultimately tried to expose problems. Okay, not just government corruption, any problems in society, and they try to expose them and try to correct them. These are some of the most famous. Okay, Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle. Okay, Jacob Riis, How the Other Half Lives. Okay, you can go back to those. Are muckrakers problem solvers? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ida Tarbell, Frank Norris, those are a little bit less. Okay, Ida Tarbell exposed John D. Rockefeller. Frank Norris, the octopus, he looked at the problems of monopolies. Okay, specifically Vanderbilt Railroad. So these people tried to expose the big business owners and the problems of American society. The correct answer for this top one, they're going to go through all these famous readings. The correct answer for that one is 4. These works have had a significant impact on political reforms and economic reforms. Jane Addams and Jacob Riis was most notable for their efforts. The correct answer for that one is helping out for the urban poor. Jane Addams is a very big person in American history. It doesn't come up a lot in this class for some reason. She wrote a book called Hull House. She went over some of the major problems and social problems in society. Not a big thing in this class, but definitely someone you'll learn about if you go to AP US History. All right, let's see. In the book How the Other Half Lives, the correct answer for this one is going to be 3. Okay, this will expose the problems of tenements. Correct answer for The Jungle eventually led to meat being looked at in a lot better way and regulated a lot more, so the best ones for that one's 2. This one here, the correct answer is 1, exposing poverty and corruption in American society. Tarbell and Sinclair, their best answer is going to be 3, pass legislation to correct harmful business practices. Okay. The Pure Food and Drug Act, Meat Inspection Act, that one is going to make sure that the people are eating the food are protected. Therefore, the correct answer is going to be 4. If you chose 3, it's not a horrible answer, but 4 is the best one. Okay, making sure the people that buy food are protected. They're not eating bad meat. All right, this one here, the correct answer is going to be 1. And the correct answer for this one here, Ralph Nader was an environmental movement, okay, talked about a little bit. And Upton Sinclair is the best answer is going to be, this is all messed up here. 4, expose social and economic problems. All right, last thing he did before we get into World War I, what was the 16th Amendment? That was the income tax, aka Mr. Panio's least favorite amendment, because we pay more money to the government now and not from our paychecks. That kind of stinks. The Federal Reserve Act, that's going to regulate the control of money. This is going to create the Federal Reserve, and they're basically going to be an extra national bank for the government. What foreign policy does Wilson adapt before the beginning of World War I? That's isolationism. Okay. What was the Zimmerman Note? Or you could also say neutrality for that too. Either are fine. Zimmerman Note was the message from Germany to Mexico that the United States eventually intercepted that basically said that Germany would take back the Mexican-American War territory. So this gets the United States into World War I. The Lusitania was sunk by the British mine. Or torpedo, excuse me. It was sunk by a German torpedo, and the Lusitania was eventually the reason why the United States started rooting for the Allied powers in World War I. All right? So, I know I go fast through that, but that is just kind of a review from yesterday. All right? Some final things before we let you go. Okay, I've gone over with the DBQ about the multiple choice. I would love still if you guys just kind of pop in for the Google Meet tomorrow. I see you 4th period. This way you can ask your questions. I will try and be like a hawk, just checking my email over the weekend. But if you have a question, you see something early and you want me to, explain it, I can. I mean, there's not much I can really explain, but if there's something you need me to talk over quick, please let me know. Are there any final questions or thoughts before you guys go into this tomorrow? Okay. So I'm going to hang here for the next 3 or 4 minutes if you need to stand back and ask me a question. Otherwise, yeah, Abigail, hang back. I could definitely explain it again. All right. Otherwise, if you don't have questions, you know what to do. I'll see you 4th period tomorrow. Please pop in, and you can start the test whenever you want, though. I'm giving it to you at 8 a.m. So if you want to start at 8 a.m., you guys can. All right. Have a good rest of your day. All right. So Abigail, just listen up as people kind of go through. So you have the media, journalists, okay? Their job is to report the news, as unbiasedly as possible, kind of give you the facts. When a news station starts exaggerating, or a journalist starts exaggerating, what they usually end up doing is they become a little bit biased with the situation. So yellow journalism constantly happens, even like in present day, you have, YouTube, clickbait, things like that. So the United States at this point in time relied on the newspapers. The newspapers wanted to sell as many papers as possible. So what they try and do is they try and come up with the catchiest headlines. They try and basically show, all right, some of the biggest pictures to kind of get people to buy their material. What happens was in the late 1800s is these newspapers basically not start lying, but basically exaggerate what's going on so people buy their newspapers. And this gets people, okay, very upset when the Spanish have to take blame for sinking the USS Maine. So yellow journalism is always related to the Spanish-American War, but it's something that has happened all throughout American society. What else could I help you with there? Okay, good, Abigail, good. I'll see you tomorrow. Chanel, Neve, you guys have questions, or you guys just hanging here?
Sorry, my bad.
No worries. No worries.